Welcome back to my channel, guys. In this video, we'll be talking about an extraordinary athlete who, despite his small stature, never failed to put up crazy numbers on any given night. The man I'm referring to, of course, is Donnell Pumphrey. Like many athletes that have come before and after Donnell, he was one of those guys who did amazing in high school and did even better in college, but when it came time for the NFL, he just couldn't put up the same production as he'd always been able to. Before we get into the video, please like and share the video as that helps the channel to grow. Now let's get into it. This is what happened to Donnell Pumphrey. Starting off with his high school days, he attended Canyon Springs High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. As a senior, the dude was the Gatorade Player of the Year for Nevada after he put up an insane stat line of 1,491 rushing yards and 19 rushing touchdowns. To sum up his whole high school career, he rushed for a total of 4,152 yards and came one short of 50 total touchdowns as he rushed for 49. So factoring in all of his stats and the area where Donnell played, there was little to no talent. Rivals rated Donnell a 3-star athlete. From what I could find, he received a total of 4 offers, which were from Nevada, Duke, UNLV, and San Diego State. Out of these schools, he of course chose San Diego State, and that's where he began his college football career. His freshman year started off as well as one could hope for. He ended up earning the second string spot behind junior running back Adam Nwema and had a pretty good amount of carries that year as well. As a freshman, he carried the ball 125 times for 752 yards and 8 touchdowns. He added to that with 22 receptions for 234 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns, which gave him a total of 986 yards from scrimmage and 10 total touchdowns as a freshman. Not at all a bad freshman season, and this year would be a glimpse of what was to come in the future. The team finished 8-5 that season, which isn't anything to be upset about, but Donnell knew that they were capable of doing better. So not only did it look like Donnell's numbers were going to increase in the future, but with that would come an increase in team success. In his sophomore year, the keys to the offense were passed to Donnell as Adam Nwema declared for the NFL draft. With the majority of carries coming Donnell's way, he did not disappoint in his second year. He carried the ball 276 times for 1,867 yards and 20 rushing touchdowns. Now, that alone would have been a crazy year, but he added to that with 160 receiving yards on 23 receptions. This gave him a total of 2,027 all-purpose yards, and it would be the first time that he did this in his college career, but it wouldn't be the last. His performance that year ended up earning him all-conference honors by the MWC coaches and media. And as great as that is for him, there were more glamorous accolades to come Donnell's way in the future. The team as a whole took a slight step backwards as they finished 7-6, but with Donnell approaching his final 2 years as a collegiate athlete, he would not only have personal success, but would bring team success as well. In his junior year, it was business as usual for Donnell. Even though his rushing numbers would slightly be lower than the year before, he made up for it by being more productive in the receiving game. Not only that, but San Diego State as a team would finish 11-2 that year, which would be the first time they did that since 1969. Looking at Donnell's stats for his junior year, he carried the ball 309 times for 1,653 yards and 17 touchdowns. He added to that with 414 receiving yards on 23 receptions and 3 receiving touchdowns. With both of these in mind, it brought Donnell's total for the 2015 season to 2,067 all-purpose yards, which is hard to believe, but the best season for Donnell was yet to come. Because of Donnell's performance that year, he was named to the first team All-Mountain West and was the conference Offensive Player of the Year. So going into his senior season, Donnell had already made a name for himself and had put San Diego State on the map for college football fans. His senior year was the year to prove that he was legit and really was one of the best players in the country. As he approached that year, many were doubting that he could recreate the last 2 seasons he had and go over 2,000 all-purpose yards once again. However, Donnell had been doubted before and knew how to prove these people wrong. So that's exactly what he did in his last year in a big way. In his senior year, Donnell carried the ball 349 times for 2,133 yards and 17 rushing touchdowns. He added to that with 231 receiving yards on 27 receptions. These combined would give him a total of 2,364 all-purpose yards from scrimmage, which was not only the highest rushing total of his career, but would be the third straight season in which he reached over 2,000 all-purpose yards. With this season, he also broke Ron Dayne's record of career rushing yards, which still stands today. Now, Donnell's rushing numbers throughout his career are more than remarkable, but I do want to point out that he had over 1,000 career carries and averaged around 6 yards a carry, which is a little above average. Now, you do have to take into account that he stood at just 5'9" and weighed around 170 pounds, so the fact that he was able to endure over 1,000 career carries at that size is crazy in itself. So after that season, Donnell decided to declare for the 2017 NFL Draft, but there were some knocks against him. For one, the draft class he was in was absolutely loaded with running back talent, since guys like Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Joe Mixon all decided to enter that year as well. On top of that, there was the obvious knock against him, which was his height, since at the combine he measured in at 5'8" and 176 pounds, which is pretty small for any running back, but especially one in the NFL. Regardless of these, Donnell ended up being taken in the 4th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. When it came time for the season, he found himself behind 3 other running backs on the depth chart, yet that didn't even end up mattering because during practice that year, he ended up tearing his hamstring and was out for the entire season. Some good did end up coming out of it though, as the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year. So technically Donnell does have a ring, but he got it in a way that no one would have wanted. So he spent the whole offseason rehabbing, but in September of 2018 he was waived by the Eagles. From there he was picked up by the Lions practice squad, yet that only lasted for a month, and he was waived again by them in October. From there he was called back up again to the Eagles and was signed to their practice squad, yet he could not make the final 53-man roster. So at this point in his career, things were looking pretty grim for Donnell, and you kind of got a feel for him because he had never really been given a shot due to something out of his control, which was his hamstring injury. Now, I'm not blaming his entire career on the hamstring injury, but it definitely is a big part of the reason why his career turned out the way it did. So after the NFL didn't work out, Donnell decided to take his talents to the XFL. He was selected 49th overall in the 7th round by the DC Defenders, but as we know, the XFL ended up being cut short in its first season due to COVID. So nothing really came out of this for Donnell. He ended the shortened season with 168 rushing yards on 46 carries and no touchdowns. So currently, Donnell is a free agent in the NFL and is trying to prove his worth in any way that he can. When you look at his career in whole, you kind of got to feel sorry for the guy, since he never really got a chance to prove that he was capable of being effective in the league. Now, I'm not saying that all hope is lost, but if I'm a betting man, I'd say that he probably won't end up back on an NFL roster. Regardless of what he wasn't able to accomplish in the NFL, I'm pretty sure that there won't be another player that will replicate what he did in college. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today. Remember, if you like this video, please like and share, as that helps the channel to grow. Besides that, until next time.